Hi everybody, Matthew Turnage here. Well, May 17th, 2021 is the 50th anniversary of the release of Paul and Linda McCartney's Ram. It's a great album, one of the best Beatles solo albums, one of Paul's best albums post-Beatles, and a personal favorite of mine, so I thought I'd mark the anniversary, or RAMiversary as I've seen online, by talking a little bit about the album. Now, when Paul approached this album, of course, he had a lot against him. He was in a lawsuit with his three former bandmates. The press had not been kind to his solo debut, McCartney, and I think he really tried to answer some of the criticisms in preparing Ram. Now, one thing he continued from the first album is sort of a more homespun approach to the songwriting. But whereas McCartney was largely recorded at home and meant to sound like a homemade record, the production level on Ram is of a much higher quality, and I believe it's the most, in terms of production, one of the most Beatley. So actually, I would say the most Beatley solo album in terms of the production approach. And it's like I said, it's a favorite of mine. And I'll just go through track by track. Of course, the album opens up with Too Many People, which is a great tune. And this is the one occasion where Paul probably lets a bit of his anger and resentment come through a bit more obviously. You know, Too Many People preaching practices is obviously aimed at John and Yoko. You took your lucky break and broke it in two. But nevertheless, it's a great rockin' tune. There's a lot of energy in the track. I love the guitar work in it. The drumming, it's just, there's a lot of fire in the playing, even the rhythm guitar parts. And Paul's lyrics and his vocal performance, I think, is great. You know, of course, John responded in kind on his Imagine album, which came out just a few months later, on the track How Do You Sleep. But, you know, and John, in defending How Do You Sleep, said, well, it's an answer to Ram. I don't think he ever recognized that Ram was most probably an answer to John's December 1970 interview with Rolling Stone, where he slammed Paul and really just about everybody else that had ever come across him in his life. But it's a great song. You know, of course, you'd prefer, or I would prefer, that John and Paul didn't go at each other in song, but nevertheless, it's a great song, just like How Do You Sleep is a great song, and it's a great way to kick off the album. Next is Three Legs. Nice little bluesy number from Paul, and you know, some people think that that's a comment on the Beatles. I do kind of wonder too about you know, the dog with three legs. You know, my dog's, he got three legs. Your dog's, he got one. Is that three against one kind of vibe comes through? But regardless of what Paul's intention was with the lyrics, it's a great bluesy rockin' tune, and another good song as we kick off early in the album. And then we switch gears a bit in terms of style with Ram On, which is one of my favorite tracks. The ukulele on that, and it's a much more kind of gentle track with some nice percussion work in it, and it's another great Paul song. Paul sings really well on this one too, and it's the melody is another killer Paul melody. Next up is Dear Boy, and this is another great Paul melody, a bit more laid back, although the track kind of builds a bit, and nice vocal work. Paul and Linda together on that track too. This is another song that John thought was about him, but Paul said was about Linda's first husband, and the lyrics, I think, do make a lot of sense in terms of thinking about Paul saying to Linda's first husband, you know, dear boy, you didn't know what you had. You know, this is Paul reflecting on how great Linda is and not being able to believe how someone else could have let her go. The next track is my favorite on the album. I think it's one of Paul's greatest achievements as a solo artist, or in terms of post-Beatle career. I guess technically it's not solo since it's credited to Paul and Linda. But Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. Very lush production on this. This is the most Beatle-y of this Beatle-y record in terms of production. I think this is the song where Paul said, okay, everybody thought McCartney should have been more like Abbey Road. Here's where I'm going to give him the Abbey Road treatment. And it is so great. I love everything about the song. It's part of what I like to call Paul's, and I may have talked about this in previous videos, but Paul kind of did what I think of as, I like to call it his prog pop songs. It's where he takes multiple elements, bits and pieces of like partial pieces of songs, and pulls them together into one great pop song. Another prime example, of course, would be the track Band on the Run with the three distinct parts to it. So Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey really has, even though it's two parts, to me there's almost three parts, because I feel like the Hands Across the Water chorus is a bit different from the regular Admiral Halsey bit, so you kind of get those three things, and in a way it kind of feels to me like, when you think about a band like Yes, who would take all these multiple bits of songs and pull them together into one piece, whereas a band like Yes would do that over a song that might be, 10, 12 minutes long, or even a whole side of an album. Paul does it within, about a 5-minute pop song. And it's just, to me, it's just brilliant. Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey has so many fun moments too. The rain at the beginning, and the whole "We're So Sorry" and all that, and the vocals are there, and it just kind of builds everything. Every element in that is just so. Again, the horns and all that is so lush and so beautiful, and then transitioning into the Admiral Halsey bit is so fun. I mean, it puts a smile on my face. The whole butter pie bit, and that great chorus, "Hands Across the Water." You just want to sing along. It's a magnificent tune. It's such a brilliant achievement of Paul. And then going into "Smile Away," and this is when I listen to these last two songs on side one, and I think about the criticism that Ram received on release. I think partly, maybe even mostly, it's because Paul was the scapegoat for the breakup of the Beatles. He was blamed for that in the press, I think, and so the critics kind of took it out on him. I also think at that point, in 1971, we're still pretty early in the era of rock criticism, and it's my opinion that I think a lot of the critics, in order to justify the existence of rock criticism and saying this is a level of artistic criticism on par with other levels of artistic criticism, sort of justifying their own place in the artistic critical community, in order for them to be taken at that level of seriousness, the art that they're critiquing, I think, had to be taken at a level of serious. Rock and roll music needed to be shown to be a serious subject of art, as much as classical or opera or fine art or whatever. And so there was I think they put much too much emphasis on the lyric approach and the seriousness of the lyrics. And I think that's one of the reasons why at this point they loved John and hated Paul, because John's lyrical approach, of course, Plastic Ono Band is very much John giving a personal statement about himself and his emotions and his pain. Imagine also is more serious subjects. George's All Things Must Pass touches on, more kind of spiritual matters, so it's all much more weighty. Paul's lyrics are not, at least not as obviously that weighty. I think he does tackle more. I mean, a song like Another Day, the single that accompanied or just preceded Ram. I think that's some pretty serious subject matter on there, but because it's in a lighthearted or, or a musically lighter pop tune, I don't think he got credit for that. But to me, where Paul excels and where he exceeded his former bandmates, as great as those late 1970 albums were from John and George, Paul's uh, musicality and the music he's writing is at a such higher level that and to me that's what's more important is the music has to be interesting and has to express something interesting in the way it's written and recorded. Um, Lyrics are fine, but and sometimes lyrics can be very moving and touch you in a special way. But it's the music that grabs me the most. And Paul was coming with the best music and the most fun music too. I think the critics kind of forget that rock and roll is meant to be fun too. When you think about those great early rock and roll classics of the 50s, if you think about Elvis Presley, you think about Chuck Berry, that's fun music. And Paul was writing fun music. And that's the heart of this album here in the middle with Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, and then going into Smile Away, which is just a great, fun, rockin' tune. It's the lyrics are a bit silly, but it's meant to be silly. It's meant to put a smile on your face, and it always puts a smile on my face. And I think it's I love that guitar sound in it too. It's just a great rockin' tune. Flip over to side two, we get the Heart of the Country, another great Paul McCartney melody. I love the lyrics to this song. Uh, we've got some family that has some property out in the country, and every time I go out there, and when I think about I'm going to retire out there someday, I think about this song. That's what Paul's expressing. That's me. That's where I want to be. Maybe not with horses, and certainly not with sheep, but living in a home in the heart of the country. I mean, I just think that's great. I think it's such a great song, and again another killer Paul McCartney melody. And then we go into Monkberry Moon Delight. Again, the fun factor continues. It's all a bit bizarre with the lyrics, and Paul is, going that Screaming Jay Hawkins style, kind of oh darling kind of voice, and it's great. It's such a great tune, and Linda's backing vocals on it. I love her how her vocals go along with Paul's, and it's such another great song, fun song, And I have seen, and I do kind of wonder this too. There's a little bit of darkness underneath. Apparently, in an early version of the song, that line about the piano up my nose was pillow up my nose, and some people speculate maybe that was Paul. He tells the story during or just before he started making the McCartney album, being so depressed over the breakup of the Beatles and waking up one morning laying in bed with his face down in the pillow and just with like no energy, no will to get up, and thinking, if I don't get up, I'm going to suffocate here. And so maybe that was kind of where the pillow up my nose generated, and then eventually got changed to piano up my nose. So maybe there is something sort of darker involved in Monkberry Moon Delight. But as it ended up, I mean, there's with a bit of sort of nonsense lyrics and things, is a bit more of a fun track. And then you go into another fun track, Eat at Home. Paul's sort of ode to domestic bliss, shall we say, is another great song, and kind of a Buddy Holly more flavored sort of rocker. Another great tune. Then we go into Long Haired Lady. It's a good song. If I were ranking the tracks, this would be my least favorite. Again, I like Paul and Linda's voices together on this song. My only knock against it is it just goes on a bit too long. I think you could have trimmed it in half and it would have been perfectly fine. But it's maybe it's sort of the flaw in the Persian rug of Ram. Then we got the Ram on Reprise. Return to that great song from side one with a little bit of a sneak preview of Big Barn Bed that would end up on Red Rose Speedway at the end of that. Then going in the back seat of my car, Paul closes the album on an absolute epic. Another big production and great song, great lyrics, great performance all around, and that's Ram. Of course, Paul recorded in New York with a couple of great session musicians, Denny Sywell, who would become one of the founders of Wings with him, and then Dave Spinoza and Hugh McCracken on guitar. Great cover work. Here, a photo by Linda and doodling about it by Paul, and of course the back cover. Of course, the photo of the two Beatles. I was just reading today Paul's this month's Q&A on his website. He was saying that Linda took that picture and they just thought it was a fun picture and it wasn't meant to be a comment on the Beatles. I'm not sure if I buy that or not. And of course the gatefold there. This is a first pressing copy of the album that I picked up just a few months back, and this sounds absolutely great. It's a great copy. Just to show, of course, the beautiful Apple label. But Ram is one of Paul's greatest achievements post-Beatles. I think it stacks up well with his Beatle work as well. Paul was really firing on all cylinders. And one last thing to talk about very briefly. I liked the promotion of this album too. I have here, as you can probably tell from a lot of my videos, I really enjoy Bruce Spizer's books. This is the Beatles solo on Apple Records, which covers all their solo releases of the Apple period. And so we've got some nice shots of some of the advertisement. You see Fresh McCartney, with Paul with his groceries, which is a nice ad. But these are my favorites. Here is the Brung to You by Ram ads with the horse, and his daughter Mary with the baby lamb. So again, Ram, one of the greatest solo Beatle albums of all time and greatest Paul McCartney albums of all time. And happy 50th anniversary to it. I hope you all will give it a spin in honor of its anniversary and enjoy it. Let me know some of your favorite Ram tracks in the comments. Thanks for watching, and Ram on.